Hello there you guys, welcome to one of my videos. Going to be giving you my player ratings from our 1-0 win against West Ham. Dean Henderson, I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10. He had nothing to do the entire game. Dean Henderson has been getting a run of games recently because De Gea has not been available. De Gea was out due to personal reasons, but obviously he's now back in Manchester and he's been self-isolating. I think Dean Henderson should be our number one choice, because I think he's now reliable enough to become our number one. He's done well in the games he's played in this season, plus he's not conceded a goal in the Premier League in 2021. And he did enjoy 2 successful loans with Sheffield United. Before the start of this season, Dean Henderson signed a 6-year contract with the club, so he committed his future with Man United. So 6 out of 10 for him. And Wan-Bissaka, I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10. He was playing quite a few sideway passes, and I think he lacked that attacking intent. So I was pretty disappointed with Wan-Bissaka. Victor Lindelof, I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. Defensively, he was good. And I thought he kept Antonio quiet. So he nullified his threat. You know, Victor Lindelof can play really well when he wants to, but as you all know, I've got my strong reservations about him. Lindelof's been at the club now quite a few years. We got him in a deal worth £31 million from Benfica. So 7 out of 10 for Lindelof. Harry Maguire, I'm going to give him a 8 out of 10. I thought defensively he was good. He made some good clearances and he made some good blocks. So a good performance by Harry Maguire. You know, it made up for that abysmal miss against AC Milan because he did hit the post from a yard out. Harry Maguire wasn't worth the £80 million that we got him for. We certainly overpaid for him. He's the most expensive centre-half in the world at the moment. Luke Shaw, I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10. Luke Shaw was immense again. Got forward very well. Provided width. Defensively, he was superb. Luke Shaw's had a very, very good career at Manchester United apart from his injuries. He's been at the club now over 6 years. And he still remains our first choice left back despite the arrival of Alex Telles. By far, Luke Shaw's been the player of the season. So yeah, he deserves a 9 out of 10. Fred, I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10. He didn't enjoy the best of games. I thought he slowed down our attacks. Didn't really probe with the ball. So just a 5 out of 10 for him. You know, Fred has enjoyed good games as a Man United player and aspects of his game have improved. But Fred is not at that level as want him to be at as yet. But I've got to say, during his time in Ukraine, he was a world-class player. We got Fred in a deal worth £52 million from Shakhtar Donetsk. Scott McTominay, I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10. Obviously, McTominay played a part in Craig Dawson's own goal because he got, was it a head to it? But prior to that, he didn't do very much from my perception. So just a 6 out of 10 for McTominay. Bruno Fernandes, I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10. I thought he enjoyed a pretty poor game. Like I mentioned on the match reaction, Bruno Fernandes got dispossessed quite a few times, especially in the first half, and he gave the ball away. But Bruno Fernandes did look dangerous when he came forward. And he obviously played a part in the goal because he was the one that took the corner. Fernandes also had a good chance in the game that produced a good save from Fabianski. But it looks leggy, and I think at some point Bruno Fernandes does need a rest because we have overplayed him. Recent narrative said that Bruno Fernandes is refusing to sign a new contract until he has assurances over the club's transfer plans. He says we're willing to double his wages to £200,000 a week. Bruno Fernandes' current contract expires in 2025. There is an option to extend for a further 12 months. We initially paid £47 million for Fernandes, but the overall cost with add-ons is just over £67 million. In most of Bruno Fernandes' games, he's been very consistent, but there's been a few games where he has looked off the pace. Don't forget, he did say on his 12-month anniversary that he's planning on spending many years at Man United. He's won Player of the Month now quite a few times, reflecting on his good performances. But earlier on this season, he denied that he needed a rest because he wants to help the club win trophies. But yeah, he's our best player and he's the best signing we've made since Ferguson retired. But just a 5 out of 10 for him. Mason Greenwood, I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. I thought he enjoyed a very good game. Made some very, very good runs. Looked very lively. Had 2 good chances in the game. Obviously hit the woodwork twice. The first chance produced a save from Fabianski onto the post. And then the second one was on the counter-attack and Mason Greenwood hit the post without a save from Fabianski. Also, Mason Greenwood set up a fantastic chance for Marcus Rashford. It was a good cross, but Rashford couldn't get his head on it. I've been very, very impressed with Mason Greenwood since he broke into our first team squad. He made his senior debut in 2019 and Greenwood has been at the football club since the age of 7. So he's been part of the club for several years and he's made 80-odd first-team appearances. Earlier on this season, Greenwood signed a new 4-year contract with Man United. Ollie has been defending him a lot this season because earlier on this season I didn't really have much of a perception on him because he was in and out of the team. Daniel James, I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10. I don't think he enjoyed the best of games. Daniel James, though, he's getting in the team a lot now, all of a sudden, because there was a long period when he wasn't getting in the team, and there was also narratives of him possibly leaving the club. Probably Solskjaer's got a lot of faith in him now. Marcus Rashford, I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. I thought he enjoyed a pretty good game, Marcus Rashford. Some United fans will disagree. Like I said, he had that good chance, but didn't get any connection with it. And I think he did make some good runs, but did look a bit leggy at times. Marcus Rashford has just come back from an ankle injury, don't forget. So that is your player ratings from our 1-0 win against West Ham. Solskjaer didn't make any substitutions, surprisingly. But reflecting on the win, I can assure now Man United will finish in the top 4. Solskjaer gave his perception on the game. He says Man United need to be more clinical, which we do. And he said it could have been 2 or 3 comfortably. So he's saying, we could have had more than 1 goal, reflecting on the chances we had. You know, we've beat West Ham 3 times now this season. West Ham haven't got a good record at Old Trafford. You know, West Ham's last win at Old Trafford was back in 2007. I gotta say, West Ham were very, very poor. You know, didn't even have a shot on target in the game. There was a period where they were playing quite well after we'd scored, but prior to that, West Ham were totally anonymous. I think their game plan was to be defensive and hit us on the counter-attack. You know, West Ham basically went for the point. You know, if West Ham had got a point, David Moyes would have been very delighted. But yeah, it's back-to-back wins in the Premier League for Manchester United. West Ham obviously had some injuries. There was no Yarmolenko. There was no Ryan Fredericks. There was no Ogbonna. There was no Masuaku. There was no Randolph, and Jesse Lingard obviously couldn't play. It wasn't the best of games, but I think we put a much better performance out yesterday than we did against AC Milan in the Europa League last 16 first leg. Because it was a very average performance against AC Milan. I think for large periods of that game, AC Milan were dominant. You know, they had their chances. They had 2 disallowed goals in the game. One from an offside from Raphael, and the other one from a handball from Kessie. You know, Harry Maguire missed a sitter in that game against Milan. You know, James had a very, very good chance, put it wide, and Martial had a good chance, produced a good save from Donnarumma. But certainly Henderson should have kept out AC Milan's equaliser in injury time, because he did get a hand to it. So AC Milan now have the upper hand going into the second leg, because they've got that vital away goal. The only positive from Man United perspective from the first leg was Amad Diallo Traore coming on and scoring his first goal for the club. And surprisingly, we didn't see Amad Diallo Traore yesterday against West Ham. I thought he could have made his full debut for the club, and he looks a good asset for the first team. And the good news from Man United perspective, we've received a Paul Pogba boost. Solskjaer says 5 injured players could return for the second leg against AC Milan. Now, obviously, Paul Pogba, he's been out with a thigh injury. The last game Paul Pogba played was the 3-3 draw with Everton. And he has been a big miss, because we do lack creativity in that midfield without him, and we are far too defensive. We was getting the best out of Paul Pogba before he sustained this thigh injury. Earlier on this season, he had an ankle injury, and he was out for the vast majority of last season with an ankle injury. So he's sustained a few injuries now at Man United. Now, Paul Pogba has had a long-running transfer saga. He's been relentlessly linked with a move to Real Madrid. PSG are in for him, and his former club Juventus have been in for him. He endured 4 very good years with Juventus before he rejoined Man United. Now, it said a few weeks ago, if we are to sell Pogba in the summer, we'll demand £100 million. Narratives came out a few weeks ago saying that Pogba is open to staying at Man United after making a transfer U-turn, and he's willing to discuss a new contract at the club. Earlier on this season, Solskjaer suggested Pogba could sign a new contract. And he said that Paul Pogba is happy at the club. Earlier on this season, we triggered that 1-year extension on his contract, so he's under contract with Man United until June 2022. Mino Raiola, as you all know, is desperate to get his client out of the football club. You know, Mino Raiola doesn't have a good relationship with Man United and he has been criticised a lot. He said earlier on this season, though, that he's got no intentions of destabilising his client's season at Man United, and he did make an admission saying that he's working quietly on Paul Pogba's transfer to avoid offence. And he made the announcement back in December last year, and Solskjaer was furious with Mino Raiola's announcement because it was just before the game against Leipzig in the Champions League. Pogba's our most expensive signing at the moment because we paid £89 million for him. This is his 5th season at the football club since he rejoined. Anthony Martial, he's been out with a hip injury. He sustained it in our 1-1 draw with AC Milan, so obviously played no part against West Ham. I think he did have the scan on his hip. He had an injury just before that, Martial. Martial has been out of form for the vast majority of this season. You know, he's had chances, but he hasn't converted them. And a lot of United fans are saying we should sell him in the summer. But Solskjaer said earlier on this season he's backing Martial to rediscover his form. And he said he's been impressed with his work rate. You know, he's been at the club now over 5 years. He's enjoyed good periods. You know, I thought he was good last season. He was definitely good in his debut season under Louis van Gaal. De Gea, he should be back for the game against AC Milan. Donny van de Beek, he's also another player that's been out with injury. He's had a muscular problem as Donny van de Beek. I think he's missed our last 7 games. Van de Beek has played nowhere near as much as I expected anyway throughout the course of this season. Most of Donny van de Beek's appearances when he's played have come from the bench. He's only started 2 games in the league this season. Earlier on this season, Solskjaer made an admission regarding Donny van de Beek, saying that he's unhappy at the club because of his lack of game time, but Solskjaer's promised him more game time at Man United. He's a good player. You know, we got him in a deal worth £40 million. We paid £35 million up front and there was £5 million in add-ons. And Van de Beek's got a contract with the club until 2025. And he can play in 3 different roles, so he is versatile. Edinson Cavani, he's also another player that's been out with injury. And he's been a big miss because he's made a fantastic impact since he's come in. Obviously, you know, Juan Mata is still out, but he doesn't get in our 11 anyway. And Phil Jones is still out with injury, and he's another player that doesn't get in our 11. Phil Jones has been out with injury for over a year. But it's going to be interesting to see how Solskjaer approaches the game against Milan in the second leg. I'm expecting to make some changes from the 1-0 win against West Ham. Now, there's been narratives coming out about a new contract for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Now, Solskjaer has agreed to sign a new contract with Man United worth £9 million a year. Sources at Old Trafford have said that talks are set to begin any day on the new deal, because later on this month, Solskjaer enters the final year of his 3-year contract. He probably does deserve a new contract, reflecting on the progress he's made in the last year or so. Earlier on this season, it said that Solskjaer's future was in doubt because he admitted that nobody had spoke to him regarding a new contract. Now, Woodward recently did a statement and he said the progress by Solskjaer and the players this season is clear. So in that aspect, Woodward is backing Solskjaer. And Solskjaer has come out and said that he'll have his final say on our transfer incoming deals. By the way, we are set for a transfer summit this week. Solskjaer's going to sit down with our new chefs to discuss our transfer targets and in general our plans for the summer. I'm expecting Solskjaer to get the backing he deserves in the summer, because obviously we've got a director of footballing, it's John Murtough, and he's our first ever director of football. And I did say we need a director of football because it's one of the structural changes that we need at the club. And John Murtough, he knows the club inside out because he's been at Man United for 7 or 8 years. We've got obviously Darren Fletcher, that's now the technical director, and Darren Fletcher knows the club inside out because he was a Man United player for 2 decades. You've obviously got Michael Carrick, that's part of the club, and he knows the club through thick and thin. I think the transfer windows Solskjaer's endured so far, though, he has not been backed enough. He's endured 4 transfer windows so far as permanent Man United manager. Yeah, he has made some good signings since he became Man United manager, but as yet, he ain't got all the players that he wanted to recommend in. Solskjaer has spent nearly £300 million at Man United. But Woodward's come out several times to show his support for Ole, and even enjoying them really bad periods, he did assure that Solskjaer's job was safe. Our board have got a soft stance on Ole, with him being a club legend. But this year's summer transfer window is the biggest in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's managerial career. Solskjaer said earlier on this season it may not be business as usual due to the pandemic, but he said he's interested in bringing in players that would be a perfect fit for the club. Now, a new centre-half and a new forward are the 2 priorities, but I think Ole's looking to strengthen up in 4 positions. You can definitely identify the weaknesses in the squad. There's been a lot of players on our agenda. Now, I recently give you the news on Pau Torres and Jules Koundé. Now, according to ESPN, Pau Torres has emerged as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's top target. And we have been in contact with Villarreal over Pau Torres, and it says we can get him for less than his £56 million release clause if Villarreal fail to qualify for Europe. He's been at Villarreal around 19 years as Pau Torres. He was in their youth setup for a lot of years. He's got a contract with Villarreal until 2024. Do you think he'd go well alongside Harry Maguire in our back line? And Jules Koundé, there was narratives coming out earlier on this season saying that we are unwilling to meet his £68 million release clause, but he says we are prepared to pay around £61 million. Larazzion said earlier on this season we were considered the favourites to sign him. Now, Jules Koundé's teammate, Diego Carlos, has said that Jules Koundé is ready to play for the big club. And he spoke highly about Jules Koundé. But Jules Koundé's performances this season for Sevilla have been outstanding. You know, he's been at Sevilla almost 2 years. He's under contract with Sevilla till 2024. Sevilla paid £22 million for him from Bordeaux in the summer of 2019. I think he'd go well alongside Maguire in our back line. You know, there's still narratives coming out regarding Rafael Varane. I can assure I'd take him at Man United, you know. I'd certainly take Declan Rice at Man United, you know, because we've been in for him. As you all know, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would love to sign Erling Haaland. It'd be good to see Solskjaer reunite with the player because Solskjaer knows him well, because Solskjaer was the one that gave Erling Haaland his debut at just the age of 16 at Molde. And earlier on this season, Solskjaer said he's following Erling Haaland's progress, and he said prior to the game against Sociedad that he's keeping in touch with Haaland. Back in December 2019, Solskjaer and Woodward went to Norway to meet up with Erling Haaland to negotiate a possible move to Man United. His agent Mini Oriola said a few weeks ago that there's only 4 clubs in England that can afford him. He does have a release clause, but it doesn't become active until next year. If Dortmund sell Haaland this summer, they'll probably demand in the excess of £100 million. There's been a lot of clubs in for him. The Daily Mail recently said that City were leading the race for him. You know, Dortmund paid just £17 million for him, and he's got a contract with Dortmund until 2024. But like I've said in regards to Ole, I don't think he's the long-term manager for Man United, but I think he does deserve at least another season at the football club. You know, there has been a lot of Man United fans demanding Ole out of the club. I've told you my 2 big concerns about Solskjaer is his decision making, because in a lot of his games at Man United he's been tactically naive, but there's been some games where he's showed tactical flexibility, but he's got to do that persistently and he hasn't got a proven pedigree as a manager, so that's my other element of concern regarding Solskjaer. This is his 2nd full season at the football club. Solskjaer needs to win a trophy at Man United to avoid the sack. We need to win a trophy this season because Solskjaer's not yet won a trophy at Man United, and he's been Man United manager over 2 years, and we haven't won a trophy since 2017. The FA Cup and the Europa League is a chance of a trophy. I said if we can finish 2nd this season and win a trophy, that'll represent a good season for Man United, and then that'll give us something to build on going on into next season. You know, reflecting now on Solskjaer's been at the club, he has gained some managerial experience, he's learnt quite a bit on the job. You know, before he was with us, he was at Molde. He won a few Norwegian titles at Molde, but they're not a big club. And before he was at Molde, he was at Cardiff, and his record at Cardiff was absolutely disastrous. But whether Solskjaer succeeds as Man United manager or not, I'll still always adore him. Because at the end of the day, he is a club legend. He was a great player for the football club for 11 years. He flourished under Sir Alex Ferguson's guidance. But we've enjoyed very good periods under Ole where we have seen consistency, and during some of them good periods he's got the best out of the team, he's improved certain players. But we've also enjoyed very, very bad periods under him where you can turn around and say, yeah, he was lucky not to be sacked. A lot of United fans did say we made a mistake giving him the job permanently. Or did we give him the job too soon? Maybe we should have waited until the end of that season to decide or not whether to give him the job. But he did very, very well, didn't he, as the interim manager. So that's why the club decided to give him the job permanently 2 years ago. But we've got to credit Ollie in quite a few aspects. You know, we're second in the Premier League. At one point, he got us top of the Premier League for the first time in like 8 years. And we was in the title race at one point, but there was a period where we dropped too many points. So obviously, we're no longer in the title race now. I don't see us winning the title for a good 3 or 4 years at least. We haven't won the Premier League since 2013. You know, he's got us to the FA Cup quarter-finals, got us to the Europa League last 16, got us to the EFL Cup semi-final this season, did well last season in his first full season at the club, got us to 3 semi-finals, got us third and got us qualification for the Champions League. Also got rid of a lot of players since he got recommended in, made some good signings. So there you go. Yeah, I think Solskjaer is the best manager since Ferguson, got to be honest. Mistakes have been made in the last 8 years, and that's why we haven't been as consistent as we'd like to have been. So yeah. So anyway guys, that's everything to update you for today. Drop your comments, likes below on the channel. If you do, consider subscribe as always, and take care. God bless. See you all again very, very soon.